Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Claire. A year and a half ago, I sold everything I owned to become a scuba instructor and travel the world. Now I'm wanting to share all of my tips and tricks and experiences with you guys to show you that traveling the world on a budget is possible for anyone. So stay tuned, and without any further ado, welcome to Adventuring with Claire. So in today's video, I am going to tell you guys about the trip that changed my life. If I had not gone on this trip, I would not be here in Thailand working as a scuba instructor right now. I went to Belize May 2021. It was kind of a graduation present to myself because I was finally graduating after 4 years of grad school. When it comes time for graduation, everything's still kind of iffy with COVID, and so my graduation date was kind of being pushed around a little bit, which was very stressful because I was supposed to leave very soon after my graduation. Ended up being my graduation got moved to a Saturday, and then I left very early the next morning on Sunday to go to Belize. In the years before I started really getting into scuba diving just as like a hobby, and knew I wanted this trip to be somewhere where I could go scuba diving all the time. So I started searching for volunteer programs, and I had gone on 2 volunteer trips years before with a company called IVHQ. It stands for International Volunteer Headquarters, and I had such a great experience. So I went on their website, and they did have a marine conservation project in Belize. So I just went ahead and booked it for 3 weeks. IVHQ is a really great company. I've done 3 volunteer trips with them now. Each one has been amazing. I think it's a great stepping stone for people who are wanting to get into solo travel but are kind of scared, don't know where to start. It basically starts preparing you and kind of cushions you along the way to becoming a solo traveler. So how the programs work is you just book your ticket to whatever country you're going to. They help set up your transportation, and then once you're there, they just do the rest. You still get that feeling of being somewhere by yourself because you don't know anyone going into it, but you make friends very quickly. It is like an instant friend group because a lot of people that I met there were also solo traveling, so everyone's just a little bit more eager to meet other people. So I went to Belize City and then took a teeny tiny plane from Belize City to Placencia, which is like a sliver of an island in southern Belize. And when I say teeny tiny, they didn't even have an airport. They had a trailer with a front desk check-in and a waiting room. Just call and say, okay, everyone to Placencia. Come out to the loading area now. So once I got to Placencia, the guy that I was staying in the Airbnb with for my first night came to pick me up, took me to the Airbnb, and I just had a relaxing night. The next morning, I was then meeting all of the other people who were going to be doing the program with me. We brought all of our things to the dock, loaded onto the boat, because we then went to this itty bitty little island and stayed there Monday through Friday. This island did not have any cell phone service. It was really just in the middle of the ocean, and it was so nice just to get away from everything and just live this peaceful little island life. It was a 45-minute boat ride to the island. Is called Tom Owen's Caye. So all the other volunteers and I just started chatting and getting really excited for our time on the island. Once we arrived, it was really put into perspective how small this island was. You could literally walk around the perimeter in like 10 minutes. Once we pulled up to the dock, we unloaded everything and started exploring the island. there was a bigger building which had the kitchen and our dining area. It had a lot of rooms in it as well, and then there were more huts outside that people could sleep in. For the IVHQ program, when I went there, it was around $1,000 a week, which seems like a lot when I first say it. But then also keep in mind that it was a scuba diving holiday, and scuba diving is not cheap. There's a lot of expenses you don't think about, like the cost to fill up tanks, the cost to maintain equipment, the cost of the fuel for the boat, and many other things. So all things considered, going on 3 or 4 dives a day for 5 days, all the meals included, your accommodation included, $200 a day is really nice. In many places you go to scuba dive, you'll spend well over $100 just for 2 dives. Now for the fun part, I will go over what a typical day looked like. In a nutshell, it was just dive, eat, sleep, repeat. So each morning they woke us up at 6:30. We'd get up. If we wanted to have coffee and some yogurt, we could do that then, because then we were leaving for the first dive at 7. The marine conservation part of all these dives is that we were spearfishing lionfish. So for anyone who doesn't know, in the Caribbean, lionfish are invasive. They think that many people who had saltwater fish tanks who no longer wanted their fish anymore just dumped everything into the ocean and then introduced lionfish into the Caribbean. So they do not have a natural predator. And lionfish can lay anywhere between 10 and 30,000 eggs every couple days. So if you think how much one lionfish can reproduce in a single year, it is massive and it's causing a massive problem. So that's why you hear a lot in the Caribbean of people going out and just spearfishing lionfish. It's basically just a way to control this population because they are devastating the reefs. They're killing all the reef fish and causing a lot of harm. So that was the marine conservation part of the trip. So they taught us how to spearfish. The spears that we had was just a long piece of plastic with spikes on the end and then a rubber loop at the other end. We then would put the rubber loop through the thumb, stretch it out, grab all the way near the spike, point it at the fish, and then just let it go. We then carried also a big long tube that you would put the lionfish in after you had speared it. Once we got back to the island, we learned to fillet up the fish so that we could have it for dinner, and then threw the rest into the water and just watched the nurse sharks come in and eat everything. So before people will start to wonder, lionfish are venomous, not poisonous. Venomous means that they have spikes that can inject venom into you, whereas poisonous means like if we were to ingest them, it would then be poisonous to us. So we can eat them, we just can't touch their spikes. We'd get back from our first dive and then we would have proper breakfast. Our chef's name was Bull. He was an incredible chef. Everything he made was some of the best stuff I've ever had. I did not realize I would be eating so well on a teeny tiny little island in Belize. And his trademark thing was saying everything was made from scratch. He'd be like, yeah, these tortillas are made from scratch, and this dessert is made from scratch. So then after breakfast, we had a little rest. You could either sleep or read or do whatever you wanted. And then we would get ready to go on the second dive around 11. We did the same thing every dive. We would just go looking for lionfish and just explore the reef. Then we would come back, we would rest, and then we would have lunch around 1, take another rest, and then we would go on our third dive of the day at around 3. Once we got back from the third dive, then we had a larger chunk of time before dinner. So every single day during that time, we would put on volleyball tournaments. It got very heated every single day. I do not know how to play volleyball, and I was getting extremely competitive for someone who has no volleyball skill. They also had slack lines, they had a place for people to work out, they had kayaks, they had tons of hammocks, and so you really could do whatever you wanted on this little island. It was perfect. Throughout the days, they would throw in little presentations talking about marine conservation like corals and just about Belize in general and different fish species, things like that. Then one day a week, instead of doing one of the dives, we would head over to one of the other islands kind of nearby, and we would all do a beach cleanup. We would all get the plastic bags, we'd go along the beach, start collecting all the plastic, and just clean up the islands. We brought our lunch with us to this island, so after we were done cleaning the beaches, we'd get to eat and relax just on a different island. People that I met on this trip were amazing, and I still keep in contact with a lot of them actually. All of us on the island became so close. And you would imagine so because none of us had phones, and so we were forced to enjoy each other's company. One day we had pull-up competitions and arm wrestling competitions, beach volleyball competitions every day. We had dance nights where people taught us how to do different dances from different parts of the world. So then on Thursday nights, it was our last night on the island because then we headed back to Placencia on Friday. We would have a big dinner. We would have competitions to see who could guess how many lionfish we speared that week. The winner would get like a t-shirt, and then Bull would make a big feast for everyone. And it was always so good, and of course, made from scratch. On this trip, a few of the people were like, "Oh, Claire, you're a really good diver. Maybe you should get your dive master certification." And I don't know, that flipped something in my head that was like, maybe I should. Maybe I will. That's what I'm gonna do. And so then when I got home, that's exactly what I did. I went and got my dive master certification and then headed off to Mexico to get my instructor certification. I had a huge passion for scuba diving, but it was only after this trip that I was like, no, I've got to make this part of my everyday life. So without this trip to Belize, I cannot confidently say that I would be here in Thailand, living my dream, working as a scuba instructor. It's just crazy to think about how one decision in your life just snowballs and can completely change the trajectory of your life. So that's why I tell people so much, if you have that little voice inside of your head saying to do something, do it. I had this little voice inside my head saying, you need to go on a scuba diving trip. You need to do it alone. I'm not sure why, but I'm just telling you, this is how it's gotta be. So just trust it. Trust that little intuition. So then the weekends came, we went back to Placencia. A lot of us stayed in a hostel together, so it was just one room with 10 beds. And it was honestly so much fun. A lot of us just hung out and relaxed for those couple days. People were always coming and going every weekend, and so we would go out to the bars, say our goodbyes to those who were leaving, and it was just so much fun. So that about covers my life-changing trip to Belize. If you want to see other videos of my travels, head on over to my YouTube channel and check them out. I do have a lot of written blogs of tips and tricks for traveling cheap. So if you want to check those out, you can head to my blog. It's adventuringwithclaire.com. And then also find me on Instagram and TikTok, just Adventuring with Claire. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.